Hey, what's up? It's Tuesday. I'm Jim here for The Rough Cuts, and today I'll be talking about the film Eyes of Laura Mars. This is kind of continuing my series of reviews of reviewing every film that John Carpenter ever directed, but however, he didn't really direct this film. Irving Kershner did, who, of course, later directed Empire Strikes Back, Never Say Never Again, and RoboCop 2. This was actually John Carpenter's first big Hollywood production that ever became anything. Came out in 1978. I mean, he had done stuff before, but this is his first Hollywood production, really, with his name on it. He came up with the story, and then he wrote the screenplay with David Zelig Goodman, who helped write Straw Dogs and Logan's Run. A photographer, the titular character, Laura Mars, played by Faye Dunaway, who suddenly, out of nowhere, in the middle of anything, she will not see what you normally see with your eyes. She sees through the eyes of a killer, and it's usually killing one of her friends. And she's having these kind of telepathic episodes, and then, and they always turn out to be true because she's seeing through the eyes of the killer as he is killing all of her friends. And it'll happen in the middle of a photo shoot, it'll happen when she's by herself, it happened when she crossed the street. I'm surprised she didn't get hit. And she's a fashion photographer who used a lot of violence, striking images. This takes place in New York of the late 70s, and she's the hip photographer who has cool fashion shows that everyone wants to go to because these images are unsettling and hip and cool and violent and sexy, and everybody's into them. But a lot of people feel maybe they're too controversial. And then it turns out some of the murders that have happened way before, she's actually unconsciously recreating them, and it's kind of creeping her out that, why is she doing that? Is she telepathically linked to some of these killings? But the police, with the help of a detective played by Tommy Lee Jones, is there to help track down the killer and figure out whose eyes she is seeing through. This is very much in the tradition of a giallo. I've reviewed another giallo for the Rough Cuts before, Blood and Black Lace, and that had a lot to do with fashion and photography, and this does as well. You can definitely tell a Bava influence, especially at the beginning during this big gallery opening. It also reminded me of Howard Hawks, which is, of course, John Carpenter is very influenced by Howard Hawks. How the pan really established all the characters in this whole photography world, and the models and Asia and all these people. The whole idea of seeing telepathically through someone else's eyes who's a killer is kind of an interesting idea. It got a little silly after a while to me. And then when they introduced this love story with her and Tommy Lee Jones, it didn't feel like it was properly developed. It kind of felt like we're in love, and then they were just kind of in love, which was a little weird. I didn't really like that part. I liked kind of the idea that she was this controversial, violent, photographer who liked to do these striking images, and that she was paying for art and stuff. That was cool, and I wish they kind of kept on that theme rather than, it seemed like all the tension that was building when her and Tommy Lee Jones start going out. I really wasn't as into the movie anymore. It really took me out of it because it just felt like such a hard left turn out of nowhere. I do like Faye Dunaway. This is right after she won an Oscar for Network. Apparently she was going out with a photographer at the time. Apparently this was originally supposed to star Barbara Streisand, however she felt that the role was a little too controversial. So she does do the song, which is the love theme from Eyes of Laura Mars, which I love the term love theme from. It's love theme from Eyes of Laura Mars, parentheses, Prisoner, and it was a big hit. It's the only Barbara Streisand song that appears in a film that she did not star in or appear in at all. She's not in it because she didn't want to be in it, but they did develop it for her. They bought the script so she could star in it, but she changed her mind, and then they cast Faye Dunaway instead. I like Faye Dunaway in this. I think she's a better kind of horror choice. I kind of buy her more as a photographer. I generally like this movie. I like the giallo elements, but I think that as much as I like that in it, I think maybe it was a bit too long and had a little too many plot points that didn't really need to be there. Apparently, Irving Kershner played a rough cut of this to George Lucas, and George Lucas decided that he should direct Empire Strikes Back. I totally don't get that from this movie. I would not see Eyes of Laura Mars and be like, wow, that guy should direct Empire Strikes Back. But however, I'm glad that decision was made. I think he knew Irving Kershner before anyway. It does have kind of a moody tone to it. Not as moody as Empire Strikes Back, but it's got kind of a moody overtone to it. If you have seen Eyes of Laura Mars and you would like to talk about it, then comment below in the comments and subscribe to The Rough Cuts. If you haven't already, subscribe to my main channel, which is in the info box below. Follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and potentially VHX. And follow Earl Barrett Holloway's Tumblr, who does the picture at the beginning and the end of this video, and has a cool comic as well that is out called squidcomic.com. And that's it, and I will see you next week. I saw this for not only because of the John Carpenter connection, but also because my friend let me borrow this DVD like 2 years ago, and I saw it and I go, wow, I should return that. But I feel like I've had it so long, I should watch it first.